Alright guys, today I've got something very special for you. We actually have some games against humans, some actual opponents that aren't just Elise Spot who just basically folds on turn 5 every game. Wow, look at that. This is the one time in this entire period that you can actually play like human matches. So basically we took a bunch of the decks that we've been showing off on this channel for the past week or so for the various deck guides. These are kind of like my list of decks personally, and we took them out for a spin against actual human opponents. Some of these decks haven't been tested against humans before. A lot of them are basically purely theory craft after spending a lot of time theory crafting, like hours per deck. We are able to show off some actual gameplay. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm just going to let it play, so let's just go ahead and jump in and see how these games play out. Alright, we get into a game here. Let's go ahead and check out the opener. We're going to go play this one a little bit passively. We really don't want to keep too many of these expensive cards. Keeping more than one Curse Keeper is really dangerous because if you don't find enough triggers for them, it can sometimes not really go off the way you want. But we luckily found the one trigger we're looking for, and we've got attack token on 1. Now, when you've got attack token on 1, it can be tempting to go for, the aggressive line when you've got Hapless Aristocrat with Ravenous Butcher. In this case, I'm going to elect to not do that. And one big reason why, of course, is because we need the Butcher for the Cursed Keeper, so we just can't use it there. We are attacking on odds, and I want to point that out. It's a really important thing that we must keep in mind throughout probably the rest of playing, is that we're attacking on odds, and this guy is Demacia Noxus. So we're going to have to play this one a lot more specifically because this is, a human opponent. It's not a refined deck, but it's still something we're going to have to be aware of. We can go ahead and jump out the Cythria, I think, with Hapless Aristocrat. I think that's just a valuable enough exchange. I don't think we're going to necessarily have to do anything with Cythria, except for, of course, threaten her over 2 turns with the Hapless, which is a great value trade. So I really do want to play Chronicler on Keeper. In a different game where we have, Keeper Butcher on 2 and no Chronicler, I think there's definitely a consideration to not go for this line, but I think it's a little too great here. And Elise, we have the rare opportunity to attack without her being blocked. You really have to capitalize on the fearsome tag that Elise has. You want to attack as much as possible with her to summon Spiderlings, but if you attack while she has a blocker on board, she will get pretty destroyed by that, right? Because she just gets blocked out. So we have to take an open attack here while he doesn't have a blocker that can threaten the Elise. In fact, the Cythria can't really trade against any of these, so the Elise attack will stand. That's pretty good. Reckless Trifarian, he's just setting up for next turn. And of course, we've got a pretty amazing Cursed Keeper here. So we have an awkward hand, actually. We really want to Black Spear, probably the Trifarian, but I guess we can do that after chump blocking 1, so that's fine. We've got the Elise's Crawling Sensation. It's a great card to draw while it's on the board. Here's Lucian, and I think Chronicler of Ruin is just too powerful in this spot to not take. We're just going to have to turn this out here. I mean, there's just no other choice, reasonably speaking. It's too powerful to get the Escaped Abomination with the Keeper still on board. So we're going to go ahead and chill here. Let's see what he does. The big play rounds in question, with Demacia, Nox, and it's really important to always think about your play rounds. Always think about, what you can do to make sure your opponent doesn't blow you out with their kind of bigger variable tools. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, Black Spear is fine. We do want to free up a gap. I'm fine with playing Crawling Sensation as well. I would like my Elise to level up here. Wow, this is an interesting spot. So if we do this, and then if I use Crawling Sensation, my Elise will level, and I think that's a fairly big deal. I think this is just too easy of an exchange. We need to free up 2 slots on board so that we can use Crawling Sensation, but we can only afford to lose 1 spider. Keep in mind, Elise needs 3 other spiders. So that block plus the Crawling Sensation is, of course, perfect for getting the 3 spiders total for Elise to flip. And Elise flipping is a pretty big deal. Nox Demacia doesn't have great ways to counter the 1 health Elise. You could run Blade's Edge for Noxus, which is the 1 mana deal 1 damage card, but it's not really a fantastic card and you don't really expect people to see it. So we're going to have Elise flip right at the start here, and that's potentially going to lead into a big open attack on our part, okay? So We've got a very, very powerful board. We've got a great open attack opportunity, and, you know, we can really, really shut down, honestly, any chance he has of doing pretty much anything else. Let's just take a big open attack and eat up the Lucian with one of these little spiders. I think that's going to be just fine, because we can just put down a ton of pressure here. He will presumably be able to turn this board around, and that's going to be fine. This could be that Blade's Edge. Nope. Takes a Detain. Wow, that's very interesting. So now this Lucian is, of course, a threat to me. He's got my Elise inside of him, and we can kill him pretty easily with Black Spear. His Detain is going to be a very mana-expensive card. 5 mana. It's good if we don't have an answer for it, but unfortunately for him, he's just never going to be able to get away with that. We're not going to let him do that. I think the safer play is to just kill the Lucian now. I don't want to give him the chance to do anything weird or like find me outside of Black Spear range. We just got to play safe and kill the Lucian now while it's a little awkward. Also, usually people running Lucian also play Senna, so if you're going to kill the Lucian, you want to do it before the Senna comes down. Let's go ahead and get our Elise back, and this actually heals her as well, because when you get it back with Detain, it's, you know, a kind of base version. Okay, so now we can go ahead and probably play Hapless Aristocrat. There's actually a few options here. I think we can end round now. We do want to be able to play Chronicler of Ruin. Actually, Chronicler of Ruin requires an additional board spot as well. Yeah, I guess Hapless Aristocrat was good in that spot. I mean, we have so much board dominance, I'm not even sure how to play this out. But board limitations are a really, really big factor for this deck. Lauren Protege, so it's his turn to attack, which means we're not going to get anything crazy here. They're just going to go ahead and surrender. They know this game is super, super over. And, I mean, what can I say? That's Dawn Spiders. This is, I mean, there's a reason that this deck is my vote for the strongest deck in the game, I would say, right now. I know I've said that. You've probably heard me say that a lot, because every time I play a deck, I'm like, man, this could be the strongest deck in the game. I've said that like 3 or 4 times, but I think Dawn Spiders, if I had to take a game to a tournament, like right now, this would be the most reliable deck to play. This is a crazy powerful deck. I think it's just really, really phenomenal. So this is the deck that I am probably most likely at this point going to craft on round 1. There are a lot of decks that are contenders. There's some very, very powerful stuff I've shown here on this channel for the past week, but this currently is my number 1. Okay, so we get into a game. This is going to be against a Rioter. This looks like a potentially mono Nox deck. He is running mono Nox. As mentioned before, pure mono. I've said this several times. There's no reason to ever run a pure mono deck. If you're in Constructed and you're against the deck that only has 1 color, you know it's not like a refined version of the deck. Because even if you're playing for the Allegiance, you're always, and I do guarantee this, you're always going to splash more than that 1 color. We've got the combo deck here with the start of Cursed Keeper, Glimpse Beyond, with Butcher. I'm going to give away Glimpse Beyond and Deny in this case. Let's just keep the Butcher combo with Keeper nice and early. We're going to see how this one plays out. This guy's also using the T-Hex board. There's the Zed right on time, and we're attacking evens, which is pretty fantastic for the Keeper Butcher on 2. Let's see how he develops his board to be able to stop Keeper Butcher on 2, of course, representing a grand total of 7 damage with 2 mana, which is, I mean, super, super crazy. So he's going to go ahead and get this 1 ship damage in. And we draw the Dawn and Dusk, which is tempting. Listen, as much as I want to play for the Dawn and Dusk, we don't have the Mark of the Isles. As funny as it is, I do just want to blow him out here and just develop my, you know, early basic smash options to be as effective as possible. Okay, Butcher, of course. This is just kind of the most quintessential Shadow Isles pocket combo. There's so many ways to trigger Keeper, but the Keeper plus Butcher is going to be, you know, one of the most powerful just in terms of tempo. You know, a 3-2 and a 4-4 for 2 mana, 2 cards is not fair. This is not a fair combo. Just there's nothing fair at all about this. And you can see he just is forced to kind of jump out with the Poro here. Sorry, Poro. So let's talk about this guy's deck and what we can expect from it. So it's a little all over the place. We're running some low quality champions like Darius. I think there's no competitive deck that should consider Darius. Vladimir is interesting and not bad, but I think the biggest problem with Vladimir is just that there's not enough good Nox cards in general. I would say Nox is probably the weakest region right now. And it doesn't feel like there's a lot of reasons to run Nox as a color, honestly, which is fairly sad, but I just don't personally see them as being like, you know, on the power level compared to everything else. So I think developing Zed here is nice. It looks like a spot where I might be inclined to open attack. We're going to go to 4 mana, so if I bank 2, we could do a weird thing with Dawn of Dusk Keeper, but that's too vulnerable to do. It's too vulnerable to think about even. I'll take the Green Glade Duo line. This is the kind of deck that should have an answer to Duo. Likely he will be running like a Blade's Edge or something trolly like that, which is normally not a great card, but it does counter Green Glade Duo pretty well. We hit the second Butcher, so second Butcher is very powerful. Most important thing is just developing this board in a way that's not really answerable. So we can keep her Butcher again, and then probably think about just like forcing our big combo on turn 6, I'm thinking. That'll be what we'll have to do. But Keeper Butcher is a little too strong to, you know, turn down. Here's Noxian Guillotine. It's a very expensive card for 3 mana for what it does, unfortunately. But this is going to be totally fine for me. I'm very happy with this. Our Green Glade Duo has 5 attack here. So it is answerable by a couple things, but as you can see, we just have a pretty great amount of immediate board pressure. And that's going to be a pretty crazy total of 12 damage, putting him to 5. There's the 5. And Guillotine is out. Okay. So we're going to burn 1 mana there, which is kind of unfortunate, but there's not really a lot to spend it on. Our draw is actually a little bit clunky. We should be able to win the game on the next turn, though, because, I mean, this deck that he's using is just a fairly weak deck. I mean, I do think Mono is probably... Mono, there's not really a lot of reasons to run Mono, as well as just Nox. There's not a lot of reasons to run Nox in general. So Mono Nox is pretty thin ice. He's emoting. Alright, sure. I think Zed is pretty safe to play out here. I mean, what am I playing around? The biggest thing is maybe Reckoning. 6 mana card, Nox slow speed card, destroy everything 4 or lower. But he needs to have a 5 attack unit for that to work, so I'm not really worried about Reckoning. It looks like he doesn't really have a lot of proactive plays that are going to do much. There's the Vlad. We can develop our second duo. I'm pretty happy with this. Big play rounds at 2 mana. There's not a lot. He could use like Death Lotus on our attack, but that's not going to stop us from winning the game. Yeah, 2 mana just can't really do a lot for Nox. Some of their like value tricks and removal are 3 mana, like Whirling Death and Culling Strike, which you just used. There's the Vlad attack. And obviously, because we are the aggressor, we're going to let this through. This is pretty important as a play. We're basically looking to close the game out next turn because he's got 5 health. So if we were to take a block, we would just have 1 less attacker for no reason. We're going to sacrifice our health to make his health even lower as well. Because his Vlad can only block 1 unit, whereas if we engage the Vlad in combat with our block, we're sort of allowing his Vlad to block 2 units. Now we're playing around Reckoning. He's got the 5 attack unit on board, so Reckoning, 6 mana, slow speed spell, kill everything 4 or lower if you've got a 5. That's not going to fly. We're going to deny the slow speed spell by taking the open attack here, and suddenly I don't think there's an answer to this board position. Double Death Lotus does actually get there. He would have to have double Death Lotus to deal 2 damage to my entire board. He does not, so he's going to go ahead and fold, and we take this one out. So this is a good example of how the combo deck, pretty crazy combo deck, is going to play out. You're going to have, you know, you don't need the crazy combo with Dawn of Dusk to be winning your games, right? You can just put a lot of pressure. The thing about this combo deck and the reason it's so good is because it is non-committal. Now those are very powerful words, non-committal, in card games, because what that means is while I do have this combo as a big option, I am sacrificing very little of my game plan to force it, right? Non-committal is probably the single strongest term possible because it's so important. You can have something as powerful as you imagine, but if you're committing to a single game plan and if you're sacrificing value pieces for the sake of that game plan, your deck is definitely going to be somewhat weaker because of it, right? So in this case, we happen to have a lot of cards that not only do happen to work for the Dawn of Dusk combo, but don't need Dawn of Dusk to make sense. All of the cards in this deck make perfect sense with each other, even without that combo. And that's the real strength of this deck. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get the same guy again, Riot Mustachionato. And this time we are playing the Fiora deck. This is going to be the Fiora Exodia deck, the kind of very all-in deck. Now, this is a little bit less strong than the other decks we have, but it's a lot more fun. So let's go ahead and take a hard mulligan. Succession is almost keepable here, but we really got to dig for big tools. And we get a nightmare hand. Nightmare hand. Double single strike, Braum. Now, the one saving grace of this hand is the second Braum will turn into a take art for the first Braum. And I can't stress how important that is. This would be a super, super horrible hand outside of that. I think it's too important to get the double Braum on 3. So I'm not going to be able to do anything really crazy here. We're just going to have to get our value in with both Braums, right? As much as we would like to play an Avaros and Sentry and develop some kind of value in that way, it's too important to try to get the value in with the Braum plus the take art on the same turn, because take art costs 3 mana, right? And we might not get every opportunity to use that. We also have Avalanche, which is really important against this deck. Let's talk about his deck a little bit. It's Ionia, PNZ, Zed, Jinx. If he drops a Zed on the board, I will take this Avalanche. That's not a Zed, so I don't have to Avalanche yet. If I Avalanche now, it's actually pretty solid value, but I think I can clean up for more. I'm going to drop Braum in this spot. We're not going to be able to take Heart. He's going to swing with both of those. I'm going to tank 5 to the face, going down to 15, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I'm going to basically put myself in a better position for Avalanche. And I don't think he's going to really be able to play too far around it. I think he's telegraphed he doesn't have Zed in hand. That's a spot where I think you're basically, you have to play Zed if you have him. So he doesn't have Zed in hand. And we have a position where our Braum can set up for the take heart, basically, right? Which is important. So Avaros and Sentry, I think we can go ahead and play out here. I don't need to bank all of my spell mana. That's totally fine. And we're not using anything crazy with Judgment. So we haven't drawn Fiora. This is this deck's big win condition, which is, you know, the big Fiora swing. It doesn't have to be Judgment. You can just sometimes just burn them down with getting 4 attacks with Fiora and just winning the game off of killing units. But we don't have Fiora, which means we're going to have to mix it up. We're going to have to play for plan B here, which is to develop a powerful Braum and just establish board control that way. We can completely dominate this board every time. He's going to take the Inspiring Mentor, which is pretty sweet. It basically allows us to maybe get a hit in with Avarosan. In this instant, let's go ahead and force this Avarosan to represent a decent board trade here if the guy wants to do anything about it, by having our Braum get damaged by the Inspiring Mentor. Now, the only reason we're doing this, well, it triggers Braum's level up condition a little bit, but mostly we just want to get Take Heart on this bad boy. Super, super, super important. Braum is so worthless as a 0/5 and so powerful as a 3/8. It's too crazy. There's the Thermal Beam for 4. Not a chance in this world that Thermal Beam at 4 mana will just end up giving our Braum even more points towards his level up. A very, very vulnerable position, because when I have 4 mana floating, it's so easy for me to have a Take Heart in hand or an Elixir of Iron even. There's almost no chance that Thermal Beam will go through in that spot. And Braum is back up. That's the power of a 3/8 regen challenger unit. So I'm ready to Avalanche first play, drop a threat, hit me with it. Dude, let's go. Come on, Zed me. So one very important thing with Avalanche is you don't try to set it up too much as a player. It's really, really important to not greed the Avalanche. The reason for that is very simple, because it telegraphs it. Like, if I avoid playing this Avaros and Sentry, he's going for the 3 attack. That's a little too vulnerable. He's tapped out of deny range at 2 mana, so I'll just take the Avalanche right now, actually. Actually, he can attack. Yeah, no, sorry. He can swing here. He'll probably swing. Never mind. I forgot that was burst speed. Yeah, he'll swing. That's a powerful swing. Ugh. So we're going to need to use our Braum to be clearing that a little bit later. And I think that's fine. He's got 2 mana, so Braum does have the ability to save us a little bit of health here. Tanking 7 would put us at 8, as you can see here. I don't really want to go down to 8. I'd much rather just, you know, use it, burn a single combat to make sure we're just killing off this shadow thing. This is also important because, of course, this will level up our Braum. How powerful. Putting Braum at 4 health, which is pretty much entirely out of the range of any potential removal at 2 mana. There's no way he can use 2 mana to deal 4 damage. And even if he could, we've got contingencies. We've got Elixir of Iron and we've got Take Heart. So, the plan B of this deck working fairly well. We're still going to go down to 13 here, but that's no problem. Okay, so at this point in time, I'm ready to just not do too much here. I want to see exactly how he responds to this spot. There's not really a great way for us to spend all of our mana, and I think that's fine. It's not really a big deal. We've got a very cheap hand, all things considered, except for the Judgment. He is playing into Avalanche a bit. I don't mind taking an Avalanche in this spot. I mean, Avalanche is going to get a bit worse after Braum. Yeah, I'll take it. I don't think I'm ever going to need this Avalanche ever again. And yeah, I mean, if I don't have to burn the mana, I'd rather not. So this is fine. I'll pop the Avros Sentry. I don't mind getting that draw a little bit earlier. That's fine. But what I was saying with Avalanche, and this is really, really important, if you want to play Freljord, if you want to think about playing your own Avalanches, super, super powerful card, will instant win you a lot of games, especially at low elo. But I think the number one thing with Avalanche is don't telegraph that you have don't telegraph that you have it, right? The one thing with Avalanche is there's almost a consideration to pass this. I mean, I'm happier burning mana than he is, actually. I'll take a bluff pass here. I don't really care if I lose the ability to attack, especially because Fiora is my secondary win condition. So I don't think I have any reason to put on this 6 damage of pressure, and I really, really want my Braum to develop something. Here's the thing. The thing to understand, if I attack right now, then he can play a unit. If I don't attack, look, if he plays a unit, he's just playing into my Braum. He's allowing my Braum to kill his unit, allowing my Braum to get a Poro, and the unit dies for free. But if I pass there, well, he's stuck. He's trapped. Because if he plays a unit, I then kill it with Braum. If he passes back, well, then the round ends. And I lose my 6 damage to his Nexus, but I don't mind that at all. The reason I don't mind that is very simple. My win condition is probably going to be a Fiora draw or just overwhelming the board. 6 Nexus damage, I'm not the aggressor. I actually have the slower deck at this position because his deck is very fast. Jinx is that he's the aggressor even though I own the board. So the time pressure is not on me in the slightest, right? There is a River Shaper. I don't really mind just kind of killing that out. But I'm just going to chill over here. There's a consideration to take an Avalanche as well. I actually don't hate Avalanche in this position. It's a really, really low value card anyway. I think we can get a bit more out of it. It's close. That definitely was a very Avalancheable spot. Just because the 2 Mighty Poros will go down as well. And they won't die. But it shouldn't make too much of a difference either way. If he plays an additional unit, the Avalanche gets a little bit better. He's taking the attack with River Shaper early. Now, I'm totally fine with that. I will just block with Braum. That's pretty easy. He will get to draw his spell, but I don't think there's any spell that really threatens me here. So, this is totally fine as well. Okay. So, he's at 15. We're just chilling. There's no pressure on me whatsoever. I've got all the time in the world to end this game. He's taking the 8 Thermo Beam. That's never gonna work. I mean, we don't even need to use Take Heart here, but we will. Thermo Beam, like trying to remove Braum is such a risk. Like if I'm gonna play basically knowing what the potential threats are, I'm gonna keep tools in my hand to keep Braum alive. You saw like he spent 2 Thermo Beams and 4 mana. Oh, sorry, he spent 12 mana because he spent a 4 damage Thermo Beam and an 8. And both times, all I did was turn all of that mana into a Poro. Or the level up for the first Braum with the Thermal Beam. So that's the power of Braum when you have a lot of buff tools for him. And I think this was a great demonstration of this deck's plan B, basically, right? Like, this deck is a Fiora deck. My win condition is Fiora. But if you play well and if you know what your opponent has as tools, you will be able to take a lot of wins off of just the Braum using the entire Fiora package. We've got all of those buff tools that are normally used on Fiora, but if we use them on Braum, we have a very, very, very powerful win condition. You'll also notice we didn't preemptively use those cards like Take Heart and stuff like that. And a big reason for that is the same thing, trying to bait out these removal tools. But even bigger is going to be the simple fact that we don't want to play into large removal. If the opponent is going to play a big card like, you know, Detain or Vengeance, something that removes a big unit, we need to make sure we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket prematurely, because we can play those cards responsively at any time at burst speed, so we're just not in a rush to play them.